Hello again, and welcome to the corner studio here in my garage. Today I want to do kind of a lens roundup, and I've been meaning to talk about these lenses for a while now. I've been shooting all of them for at least a few months, this one the longest. I guess what I'll do is do a quick intro of each one and then give you the backstory on how I ended up with them. First off, this is the Nikon 2 to 500 zoom. It is an F-mount lens and it's made for their DSLR line. Anyway, that's what the lens looks like. You can tell it's got some heft to it. I'm going to get to that a little later. This is the 1 to 400. This is a Z-mount lens made for the mirrorless line. It's an S line also. And this last one is the Nikon 400 f4.5. It's also a Z-mount lens made for the mirrorless line, and it's also an S-line lens. The way that I ended up kind of getting into this, it was August or September of last year. I was in a different camera line, different brand. The wife and I, we were looking to exit that line and move into something else, and we had a couple of possibilities we were considering. Anyway, I didn't want to jump off a cliff all at once by buying a bunch of gear. So I went out, I got a camera body, and I got a lens. And I bought this telephoto lens particularly because we shoot wildlife, and I wanted to try a lens that was kind of economical. This one was sort of a price point purchase, and I'll just jump right into that. This lens is regularly $1,399, and that was within my comfort zone to try something out. This lens here, regular price is $26.99. This one here, $3,249. So we're talking about basically $1,400, $2,700, $3,250. And you can add sales tax or whatever according to what state you're in, and you see where each of them kind of plays out. So I wanted to try a lens, and I didn't want to just jump in with both feet. And what I did was I bought this lens, and I have to tell you, this is, it's an F-mount lens, and it's made for Nikon's DSLR line, and I'm very pleased with it. I have used it, and I really have no complaints about this lens. In fact, the performance of this lens kind of led me to get further into the Nikon. So I guess you could say this lens proved out because I kept going, and we kept buying camera bodies and different lenses to get to the point where we are now, where we feel like we're pretty well outfitted. And I guess this lens here kind of opened the door to it. The thing I'll say about this lens, as I said, this is an F-mount lens, and to use it with the Z-line, Z-mount lenses for mirrorless cameras, what you got to do is get this adapter, and you can see the adapter adds that much more length to your setup when you're carrying it around and shooting it. But so far that really hasn't been proven to be a problem, and in spite of, you've got another span there, I haven't noticed that it's a problem as far as using the lens. And so I guess what I would say about this lens is I'm well pleased with it. But what happened, this is 2 to 500, and the natural progression was that I wanted to get a telephoto lens that was made for the Z line, for the mirrorless line, and I ended up buying this one. This was the 1 to 400, and it's a 4.5 to 5.6, and it's a more compact lens by far. In fact, it's time probably to throw out the stats on the weights and everything with these. This lens here is You don't know it from just looking at it on a video, but when you pick this thing up, this thing, it feels like kind of a, I don't know, I wanted to say barbell. I won't say it feels like a barbell, but this is 81 ounces. This one's 48 ounces. This one's 41 ounces. So, you know, you feel the difference even between picking this one up at 41 ounces and picking this one up at 48. But you really feel the difference picking this one up at 81 ounces. So anyway, this was the second lens that I bought, and then we bought this 400 prime, and I use the 100 to 400. That's my lens. The wife uses the 400 prime, and she's very content with this. She mostly takes pictures, so she's mostly a photo shooter. I am gradually turning into more of a video shooter, and I'm very pleased with this lens. This one here, I have to say, even though it's a 200 to 500, so it gets us out 100 millimeters more than either of these two lenses, this one has, unless I'm going out and I know that I'm shooting stuff at kind of a distance, we've been leaving this one in the bag. It has kind of turned into a spare, but what a wonderful spare to have on hand. So I'm using this one more for video, and the wife uses this one more for photos. And I'm not going to say, well, this is a video lens, that's a photo lens, but I have noticed just subjectively, and as I said, I'm not turning this into a science project, but this lens here, the 400 prime, as you would expect, it is super fast focusing when you're trying to take pictures. And I believe that it is faster than the 100-400 zoom. This is still my favorite though. Let's talk about, I'm not going to read out the stats, I just want to run through a few things that are kind of pertinent if you were thinking about buying any of this stuff. Both this lens and this lens run on 19 elements. This one runs on 25. The minimum focus distance, which I think is important, this one is 3.2 feet. And these 7.2 feet, 8.2 feet. So if you want to be able to get in a little close on something, this is the lens that you're going to need to use. And probably there's a collective, well, if you want to get in close on something, why not use another lens that's made for macro? That's fine and good, except if you're out in the field and this is the lens on your camera and it's drizzly out or whatever, you want to be able to use what's on the camera, and this one will get you to about 3 feet. And I have used it many times at its minimum focus distance because it's already on the camera. Some of the stuff, though, that you end up spending money on and you don't think about it in advance, but this is a 77 millimeter lens filter requirement here. 77 is pretty common. 77 is not super big, and I'll just hold these up and give you a comparison look. But you can see how much difference there is just in the diameter of these two lenses here. This one takes a 95. This one takes a 95. This one takes a 77. The 77s are cheaper to buy filters, and I usually buy a clear filter. I don't spend a lot of money on polarized filters and that kind of stuff, but I buy usually a clear filter of good quality, just simply because I want an insurance policy against, if you're walking through a doorway or around a rock or whatever and the tip of your lens whacks something, I don't mind this filter being a sacrificial protection for this lens. Now, you have to ask yourself, it's a math formula. What are you willing to pay for that protection, for that kind of insurance policy? Well, what happened when I bought a good filter for this particular lens, even though it's $1,400, I took the filter off of it as quick as I bought this one, more expensive. I put the filter on there to protect it. And this one sat around in my bag, and I was using it just casually, not really pulling it out that much. And one day I said to myself, what, are you nuts using this lens without a filter of any kind? It's still, even though it's way less in cost than this one, it's still a $1,400 plus investment with sales tax, and you don't want to see this thing ruined. So I ordered kind of a cheaper filter for this one, just to have something on the tip of this lens. And I guess the last thing I would say in wrapping up this segment, and it's it's one of those things, would you buy these lenses again? And unequivocally I would say yes. I find no fault with any of them. And if I was going down and I had to just buy one lens, I only had money for one lens, it would be this one, the 100 to 400, without a doubt in my mind. If I was budget shopping and I only had a certain amount of money to spread around amongst my entire camera kit, I got no problem whatsoever recommending this lens, because I don't even want to call it the budget option, because even though it is a budget option, calling it that kind of cast a bad reflection on it or whatever, because this is a mighty and very nice lens in its own right. So to wrap this thing up, I'm going to invite you, if you've enjoyed this video, I'm going to invite you to join the channel by subscribing, and hopefully we're going to see you again in another video segment. So stay tuned. Thanks again.